Coming up on today's show, travel back in time with Joe Ingles and me as we relive the life of country vets.
We'll be swinging our totaliser wheel, hoping to have some good news about our Wheel Help appeal to provide minibuses for older people.
And join me in the kitchen as I make some special sweets to celebrate Diwali. Hello. Yes, Diwali, the Festival of Lights, is here just in time to brighten up these cool, dark nights.
And what better way to say Salmo Barak to all of our Hindu viewers than with this fantastic procession from children from Leicester and Nottingham temples.
And here they come, dressed in their traditional Diwali outfits, looking fantastic. A lot of the youngsters have gone to a lot of effort to make their own costumes, and they're looking lovely.
Certainly are, and they're sounding beautiful as well, because they're hitting sticks, they're dinging bells, and they're also shaking rattles, and that's basically to make a lot of noise to ward away evil spirits and make room for the goodness.
Ah, and the children are, of course, dressed as gods, and that's why they look so fabulous in their designs.
Well, Salmo Barak.
Which means Happy Diwali. Diwali is celebrated by Hindus all over the world.
It's like New Year celebrations when families and friends get together. There are firework displays, parties, presents and fabulous feasts.
Diwali means Festival of Light, so Hindus light divas or candles around their homes to celebrate the safe return of Lord Rama after rescuing his wife Sita from Ravan, the 10-headed demon.
Rangoli patterns are placed on the doorsteps of homes to welcome happiness and good fortune.
Aditi here is going to tell us all about your fabulous costumes that you've got. What do you do especially for Diwali? Do you wear lots of jewellery?
We wear lots of jewellery and put henna on our hands.
Henna on your hands? Wow, that looks amazing.
Cool. Now, somewhere under here, we've got Kasim. There he is. Now, Kasim, obviously there's loads and loads of different parts of Diwali, but what's your favourite bit?
When I go down my aunties to eat lots of nice curry and lots of nice food.
Oh, great. Do you think there'll be room for one more? I'd love to come.
I don't blame you. Now, I'm over here with Nimish, and Nimish, you actually made your own costume. You look absolutely fantastic. How long did it take you to make?
About 2 hours.
Is that all? And what's your character called that you've come as?
Rama.
Rama. Excellent stuff. And later on, you'll like this, I'm going to be making some sweet Diwali delights.
Great stuff.
You'll really like them.
Oh, well, indeed. Now then, thanks everyone for coming along, and let's make ourselves comfortable now, because Prajapati dance group from Leicestershire are going to perform a traditional Diwali dance. So take it away, girls.
Well done.
Yeah, so tell me, why are you dancing with sticks?
Well, the gods Radha and Krishna, they used to play with it, and it's a tradition that's been carried on since then.
Cool. Now, surely it can't just be girls that do this, because that wouldn't have been
anyone any age can do it.
Yeah, so can I have a pair of sticks and have a go?
Yeah.
Lovely. Right, OK then. Show us what to do.
Hold it in the middle, yeah?
Yeah.
And then you twirl it around your head.
OK.
Yeah, like that.
Right.
And then... And remember to hop. Yeah?
Well, so we start up here. We'll have a bit of music and we'll see how we get on, because I did have a little practice of this earlier, so here we go. Oh, here we go. Look at this. Oh, I forgot a little bit there, but guys, what did you think to that? Thank you. Oh, I tell you what.
I was impressed. Simple piece of advice, stick at it.
Stick it out, get it. Now, if you like animals, you may want to become a vet when you grow up. I know I did. Now, a vet's job has gone through many changes since one young man arrived in a North Yorkshire town to start his new career around 60 years ago.
His name was James Alfred White, and when he arrived here at number 23 Kirkgate in Thirsk, it was at a very bad time for vets everywhere. Terrible unemployment and poverty were biting Britain hard, and some newly qualified vets were so desperate to work, that they agreed to take jobs with no wages, except for their bed and board. And James, or Alf as he was known, was one of them.
Mr. White. Although he dreamt of working with smaller animals like cats and dogs, there was little chance of that here. Thirsk was a town, but it was in the middle of farming country, and what little work there was all to be found on the surrounding farms. And that meant working with bigger animals like pigs, cows and horses.
Conditions were rugged, dirty, and sometimes downright dangerous. Nowadays, with technology like ultrasound and X-rays, vets can often diagnose animals without even touching them. Alf had none of these advantages. He had to rely on his eyes, his hands, and his brain to do the work. There were no convenient sterilised and disposable syringes or needles, and it was before the invention of many modern medicines. Alf often found himself relying on old-fashioned remedies like universal cattle medicine, condition powders, and others which he would make up by hand in the surgery's tiny dispensary. All the same, Alf loved his work and the freedom it gave him to explore the magnificent open spaces around him. Every day, he would set off into the bleak but beautiful countryside in his battered old car, which didn't even have working brakes. Lunch was usually grabbed by the roadside between jobs. A packet of biscuits and a pound of Wensleydale cheese, washed down with water from one of the many nearby becks or streams. Often, he would break down and have to repair the car as best he could. But Alf never tired of his demanding life, or the many colourful people he met and grew to know during his work. Soon after he arrived in Thirsk, Alf met and married his wife Joan. She was to be a great support to him. Being a vet's wife was hard work too. Every day there was a mountain of housework to do, and the strenuous physical demands of his work meant that Alf was often ravenously hungry. So cooking endless meals took up much of her time.
Thanks, Ed.
And as well as looking after him and their children, Joan helped with the accounts too. Like many country vets in the 1940s and 50s, Alf was on duty 24 hours a day, and he would often crawl into bed past midnight, only for the dreaded telephone to drag him back into his clothes for another call out, often on the coldest, wildest nights.
Thirsk 2297.
As well as the dangers from being kicked and injured by the large farm animals, vets of the time faced other serious hazards too. As they didn't wear plastic gowns and gloves, they were unprotected from one especially catching and serious disease, brucellosis.
No, I think you're in luck there. Really? Yeah, I think you're in luck. Yep, I can feel. Oh, yeah, she's definitely pregnant. Yeah, definitely pregnant. Brilliant.
Today there's a vaccine, but back then a case could devastate an entire herd and ruin the farmer. The human version of brucellosis caused many nasty side effects like arthritis, loss of weight and depression.
And almost inevitably, considering all of the contact he had with cows, Alf contracted the disease. He had to endure high fevers, which made him very hot and very uncomfortable. Sometimes the disease made him really depressed, but at other times it would have the opposite effect, and he'd feel strangely happy, unable to stop himself laughing and singing. Then, after a few days, he'd be back to normal again. In time, Alf was able to build up the small animal side of the practice. He especially loved dogs and always enjoyed working with pets.
It's a lovely day tomorrow.
The years passed, and advances in science made a vet's job less physically demanding. But Alf had so many fond memories of the early days of his career that he decided to write them all down. His stories were a huge hit.
Joan! Joan!
Alf called his first book If Only They Could Talk. Being a working vet, he couldn't use his real name, so Alf White became James Herriot, a name that he'd borrowed from a football player that he'd seen on TV. Although all of his books were based on real people and places, Alf cleverly disguised them all. The town of Thirsk became Darrowby, his wife Joan became Helen, and so on.
The books were translated and sold across the globe, and suddenly Alf was very glad that he'd chosen to hide behind the name James Herriot. James Herriot had become very famous indeed, and that wasn't Alf's cup of tea at all. 2 films were made from his books, and then the BBC started a series based on them, called All Creatures Great and Small. These were watched by millions of fans who loved the Herriot stories of a now vanished way of life.
Alf became a very rich man indeed, but he didn't let it change his life. He continued working as a vet, although sometimes his surgery was full of autograph hunters rather than patients, and he relaxed by walking his dogs over the countryside that he loved so much.
Kirkgate stopped being a working vet surgery in 1997 when it was turned into the world of James Herriot, an attraction recreating the interior just as it would have been during the 1950s when Alf lived here.
This is Sutton Bank, and Alf called it the finest view in England. It was his favourite place to walk his dogs and gather his thoughts. And when he died in 1995, this is where his ashes were scattered.
His stories live on, and the places mentioned in them have become major tourist attractions. So much so that this part of the countryside is often referred to as Herriot Country. Something which would have amazed the young man who arrived to make his way as a country vet, little knowing his experiences would make him famous all over the world.
I loved All Creatures Great and Small.
So did I.
Did you used to watch it regularly?
Yes, I did.
Saturday night, round the fire
Great.
with the family.
Couldn't beat it, could
And I'll tell you what, the vet's wife, not bad looking, was she?
Very nice.
He did very well for himself. Now, Blue Peter Badge winners get in free to the world of James Herriot, so make sure you pay a visit.
Now, if you haven't read any of the James Herriot books, then you're in for a real treat. Look out for them next time you visit the library.
And talking of books, our Blue Peter Book Award show is coming soon. It'll be on BBC One on Sunday the 2nd of December at 5 o'clock. Now, there are some terrific books on the shortlist, and if you log onto our website, there's a link to the Book Awards where you can find details of those books and much, much more.
Yes, and tonight at 6 o'clock you can chat live with one of this year's judges, Alan Gibbons. And you might remember that Alan's fantastic book, Shadow of the Minotaur, scooped the award for the book I couldn't put down at last year's awards.
Now then, news of this year's Blue Peter Appeal, and believe it or not, we've actually had 9,216 requests for these Blue Peter Bring and Buy packs, which contain everything that you're going to need for a fantastic show.
Our appeal aims to provide a lifeline for many lonely older people all over the UK who need wheels to get out and about. Now, many pensioners can't use public transport and can spend weeks on their own, not seeing or speaking to anyone. We want to get some of them out and about, joining clubs, meeting other people and starting to enjoy life again.
And let's give the totaliser a really good spin and see if the wheel might stop on the first stage. Here we go. I'm excited about this. I've done it before.
Spin the wheel.
Give it a spin.
It could happen.
Is it going to happen? Is it going to happen?
Come on, 10,000.
It's not going to happen because we actually only launched our appeal last week, so we haven't quite reached the 10,000 stage yet, but we know that loads of packs have been sent out, so I don't think it's going to be very long, guys.
No, I hope not.
Cool, now then, if you haven't sent for one of our packs just yet and you think that you could organise a bring and buy sale, then here is a reminder of the address. It is Blue Peter Appeal, PO Box 194, Rainham RM13 8EY. That is Blue Peter Appeal, PO Box 194, Rainham RM13 8EY. Please help us, it is indeed a very worthy cause.
It is a really, really worthy cause, so please, please get out bringing and buying as soon as possible. And another worthy cause, I think, is my stomach, which is rumbling away just looking at all this really delicious Diwali food. Look at this table, what a spread. Now, just like any big celebration, lots of exciting dishes are prepared to eat during the 5-day-long festival. Shivani is here, hello. Nice to meet you. And you're going to talk me through some of this, aren't you? Because it does look so colourful. OK, what are these? I mean, I recognise some things. There's a lot of sweet and savoury going on. Coconut, marzipan fruits, but what are these right at the front?
They're actually called jalebis. They're made from gram flour.
And what have they got in there? What do they taste like?
They're very crispy on the outside and the inside is very soft and it's very syrupy.
Beautiful, beautiful design. So what's your favourite?
Mine is this dish over here.
Ah, what's this then? What do you
That's called kaju katri. And these are actually fruit-shaped burfis.
Brilliant. Well, thank you very much. I must admit, I'm going to try some later. I'm going to really tuck in. But first, Simon's been busy preparing something for us.
Yes, I am, and it's sweeties, darling. Sweets all the way. And these ones over here are called coconut burfi. And these ones here, can you see them? They are date and peanut mithai. So if you fancy a taste of Diwali, why not try my 2 quick, easy recipes for these delicious Hindu sweets. Now, to make roughly 20 coconut burfis, you need 200 grams, got some in this bowl here, of condensed milk. And into that, you need to add 300 grams of icing sugar. We'll stand back at this point. It tends to make a lovely puffy, cloudy of sugar and icing sugar. And then give it a nice stir in with your spoon. Be gentle at first, because as you just see, it's quite powdery, so it tends to go everywhere. And stir it in. Now, this takes a little bit of time, but eventually you're going to be left with something that looks like this. Marvellous. Now, the next ingredient is desiccated coconut, and you are going to need 150 grams of this. So let's pour it in like that, and then begin to give it a good stir. I'll tell you what, once the mixture gets really mixed together, it becomes quite tough, but give it a good bit of elbow grease, and eventually all the coconut will blend in very nicely. Now, next up is a special flavouring. It's a rose water essence. You may not have come across it before, but only a few drops of this is all that's required. So I'm just going to put a little bit onto this teaspoon, like that, and then drop it in. So then give the mixture a really good stir, like so. And once you're convinced that the coconut is nicely blended in, you need to put the sweets into a shape. Now, the best thing I've found for this is one of these. You probably recognise it. It's what you'd normally make ice cubes from. And what you first of all need to do is to get a brush and grease the inside of each of these with a little bit of oil. And basically what this does is to stop the sweets from sticking once the mixture has set. Then get yourself a teaspoon like this and spoon out a little bit of your mixture at a time, and very carefully, using the spoon, press it into each of the ice cube moulds, like so. I'll just do a couple so that you can see how I'm doing it. And if you find the tops get a little bit rough around the edges, then you can get yourself a spatula like this and just stroke over the top very nicely like that. Excellent. Now, these then need to be left to set, and this works best if you pop them into the fridge for a couple of hours. So I'll take them over here. I'll use this mixture later. Waste not, want not. That's what Mum always used to say. Let's pop it in. And I've actually got some that I prepared a little bit earlier. That's good. Do shut door, well done. There we go, and as you can see, they've set nicely and they're very firm and ready to eat. And then you can simply pop them onto a tray and serve them up, and you can put some cherries on top, whatever you fancy decorating. You can see the ones I've done over here. And then off we go with the next sweet, because my other recipe is for dates and peanut mithai. And the easiest and quickest way, give the surface a quick wipe, to make these sweets is in one of these. You probably recognise it. It's a food processor. And for this, you're going to need 5 tablespoons of runny honey. Now, look to the bottom. You can see I've already got some in there. And to that, I'm going to add 100 grams of milk powder. Lovely. There it goes. On top of that, I'm also going to add 100 grams of chopped dates. Oh, do move it. There we go. Lovely. And finally, I've got 2½ tablespoons of peanut butter. Now, I don't know about you, but I'm a fan of crunchy peanut butter, always have been. Loved it on my sandwiches when I was a kid at school. But you might prefer smooth. It's entirely up to you. Whatever you fancy, smooth or chunky, doesn't really matter. It's going to taste the same, maybe a slightly different texture. And then pop the lid on the top like this, twist it so it's firmly in place, and then off you go. And you need to leave that going for roughly 30 seconds. Now, if you don't have a food processor like this, you can indeed do it with your own hands in a bowl like I was using earlier. It's going to take a little bit more elbow grease, but eventually you'll get the same mixture. And please do check before you give these peanut and date meat-eye sweets to friends that they don't have a nut allergy. Very, very important. Looking lovely. 4, 3, 2, 1. Delighted. Let's see how that's looking. Maybe you could have done with slightly longer, but there we go. Firstly, pull the blade out, very important, get rid of that because that's sharp and dangerous. And then, time to get your hands messy. Get all the mixture out, as much as you can with your hands, and just press it into a nice ball like that. And then I'm going to take it over here. Now, before I roll it out, I'm just going to pour some of this icing sugar onto my chopping? What on earth is a chopping tray? A chopping tray. And I'm going to put it on there. And what you then need to do is to roll your mixture out into roughly 3 sausage shapes that need to be 3 centimetres thick, like that. And by using the icing sugar, it's not going to stick. And keep going until you have something that looks a little bit like this. Okay, 3 lovely sausages, but these taste very different to your average sausage. And then what you need to do is to roll them in some more coconut. So get yourself some grease-proof paper like so. Sprinkle your coconut onto the paper and then roll each of your sausages through it like that. And if you press quite hard, try not to alter the shape of it. The coconut will stick to the outsides like this. Now, while I'm continuing to this, I'll run through the recipes once again. To make about 20 coconut barfies, you will need 200 grams of condensed milk, 300 grams of icing sugar, 150 grams of desiccated coconut, rose water or essence is an optional extra. And for date and peanut barfies, you're going to need 5 tablespoons of honey, 100 grams of milk powder, 100 grams of chopped dates, 2½ tablespoons of peanut butter, and 50 grams of desiccated coconut. And if you haven't managed to write down those recipes, you can find them on our website and see facts pages starting at 525. And once you have them like that, all you then need to do is to chop them into little shapes like this, about 1 or 2 centimetres apart, and then serve them to your friends who will be absolutely delighted. And as with my first sweets, as a finishing touch, you could decorate the tops with a piece of almond or cherry. Now we're planning a bring and buy sale in our studio next Monday, so these sweets should hopefully sell really well. And in true Indian style, we've wrapped them up using the bottom of a plastic drinks bottle and also some nice colourful netting around the outside. Would you like to try one?
I would. Very nice.
Go on then.
Yeah, thanks a lot, actually. I don't know if I should, because according to Monday's port, I'm getting farted.
Oh, yeah. Lovely.
Oh, yeah. Very nice. I'm not supposed to speak my mouth full, but I will. That's all we've got time for today, but we will be back on Friday with Hearsay, and they're going to be singing live.
Hearsay, brilliant. Well, we'll have another exciting instalment of The Quest. Will Matt be forced to walk the plank?
And some of the stars of Children in Need will be popping into the studio. Think S Club 7, think Westlife. Need I say more?
I'm nearly there. But to round off today's Diwali show, here's a performance from the Manushi dance group from Nottingham. We'll see you later.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Pick the best shows on TV.